House had shaken up pop and rejuvenated rock, but its impact on British culture wasn't just musical.
You probably had black friends and I had white friends, but you wouldn't party together. You would not party together. It just wasn't that way. After work, you went your way, I went my way. Do you know what I mean? That's how it was in the 80s, like it or not, it was. But what the rave scene did, it put everybody together. After work, they came together.
As the 80s ended, the country found itself dancing to the same drum.
We started to experience going out to raves and seeing all different cultures under one roof. Because in our vibe, when we was growing up doing our thing, it wasn't like that, as he said. It was just a black thing or a white thing. So we were going out and seeing this culture of things mixing up, and we was a part of that. We were like, yeah, this is good.
Inspired by the spirit of rave, warehouse party crew Shut Up and Dance added breakbeats to the emerging British sound.
If you went to a rave back then, as you probably did yourself, taking ease, naughty band,
no comment.
you would notice that everything was drum machines. Everything was dum dum, just straight 4 beats. But when we was making music, it was using break beats.
Drum breaks had been the rhythmic base of hip-hop for years.
We took the break beats out of the hip-hop culture and put it into our music, but we sped it up to a house tempo.
By strapping an up-tempo break onto a basic house rhythm, Shut Up and Dance took the music another step away from the clubs of Chicago and New York.
We used to put on our warehouse raves, you know, but we was only charging like £2, £3 to get in. And then when the so-called house scene started to blow up, the rave scene, all of a sudden it was £10 to get in. You know, we was like, no, taking a piss here. We was charging £2 to get in our place. We was, at one time, we was like, there's no way I'm paying this to go anywhere.
Yeah. I mean, we were charging like £2, £3 at our gates, and people were screwing to pay that. So when we heard people are paying £10, we were like, bloody hell, that's amazing. Like, where are these people getting the money from? And like, these promoters are taking a piss. So that's sort of where the idea from the tune came from.
Shut Up and Dance fueled the growing rave scene and laid the foundations for both jungle and UK garage.
After we came up, a lot of people were trying to copy us, trying to copy our sound. But we were getting mentioned in the same breath with that hardcore sound. But we always never saw ourselves as that, and we always distanced ourselves from that. But again, it's like one of them ones where we thought we was a rap man, but we weren't, so what do I know?
As house entered the 90s, it continued to stir up new musical styles.
The hardcore scene started off as jungle first, and then it was kind of jungle techno, and then went from jungle techno to hardcore, and then from hardcore to happy hardcore, and then from happy hardcore to kind of like the SL2 sound, which was like jungle, happy hardcore, and everything thrown in the pot together, which became commercial.
The English have to have a name for every goddamn thing, you know? It's ridiculous, man. It's just got to be something, and it's always got to have some sort of marketability behind it. And I know it's a business, but golly, I mean, here we are still trying to retitle and rehash old music with new titles and new genres and all this kind of shit. I mean, what is it now? I don't even know what it is anymore. It's always something new, some stupid ass name for music.
Whatever names you called it, it wasn't going away. 2 years after it mushroomed in the English countryside, the rave scene had grown from the illegal parties of '88 into huge licensed events. No longer underground, rave was mainstream.
I think
there was a time when you probably couldn't buy a packet of Rizzlers outside of the M25. But by 1992, 93, you could probably go to the Orkneys and buy E.
You should be interviewing the drugs. I'm telling
Got a lot
you.
to answer for.
They got a lot to answer for, I'm telling you.
You have to think, kind of the people that made the original house records, the Detroit and Chicago DJs, most of them didn't take drugs. In fact, they were kind of appalled. You know, this was a technological experiment for them. You know, the use of the 303 and stuff. In England, this was a music being driven by drug taking. This was people kind of like taking their idea of what was going on in their heads at 4 o'clock on Saturday night, right? You know, in front of 10,000 people, and trying to process that through the machine. And it was weird, and it got weirder. And, you know, tempo started getting faster because they were excited. They were kind of somehow mapping this accelerated heartbeat onto, you know, this soundtrack of their lives.
At that time, everybody was like partying, everybody was into acid house culture, rave culture. You know, we wanted to send it up a little bit, not promote it. And that was where people actually got it wrong. They thought we was doing an ecstasy promotion song where we wasn't. We was actually taking the piss out of it.
There's a guy in the place who's got a bit of sweet face and he goes by the name of Ebenezer Good. His friends call him Easer and he is the main geezer and he vibe up the place like no other man could. He's refined, he's sublime, he makes you feel fine, but very much maligned and misunderstood. But if you know Easer, he's a real crowd pleaser. He's ever so good, he's Ebenezer Good.
They tried to ban it. There was this whole inquiry about it. We had to do interviews about it and did totally deny that it was about ecstasy and say that it was about this composite Dickensian character. And the reason we've done this song about this Dickensian character is to put some life back into the pop charts, some substance, some theatre. People just think it's the chorus. The chorus pales to insignificance when you listen to the verses. Like, there's a guy in the place, got a bittersweet face, and E goes by the name of Ebenezer Good. So there's the confession there. His friends call him Easer, and E is the main geezer. E vibes up the place like no other man could. E's refined, he's sublime, E makes you feel fine. They're very much maligned and misunderstood. But if you know Easer, E's a real crowd pleaser. E's ever so good. E's Ebenezer Good. And it's every line. Every line.
Anyone got any underlay?
I was on Radio 1 being interviewed by Mark Goodyear and they was talking about Ebenezer Good, and Mark said to me, so on Top of the Pops last week, you said, has anyone got any underlay? What was that all about? I said, oh, it was a rug reference.
Ebenezer Good, Ebenezer Good. He's Ebenezer Good, Ebenezer Good, Ebenezer Good. He's Ebenezer Good.
This far down the line I can put my hands up and say, yeah, it was all about ecstasy. At the time we couldn't because we would have got banned. They failed to ban us.